guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to do it a little bit differently this week as far as you'll see the numbers all going through on Facebook. And if you're not on, you can go on, log on while you're listening to the call or check them later. You'll see our leaderboard, Cement and Issue Pay. We have a great group that I want to get to today. Not that every group's not great, but we've done this before and then try to kind of push through and get our time. And I don't want to take away from the amazing people that we have today. You know, new corporate office, one of the things we're doing a lot of is really getting, you know, smaller groups that come in. And it's not, you know, one of the things that happens, Jermaine, is when you build in something, a lot of times people lose sight of growing it, right? It's kind of like, you know, if I'm managing a baseball organization, let's use the Yankees. I'm not a like who do you like? I don't love. They're just a baseball team. They don't make me any money if they win. They don't cost me any money if they lose. I don't bet baseball because it's all in the pitcher, so I don't do it at all. I mess with baseball. So it doesn't benefit me, so they're not like my team. But for years, what the argument was with the team is they never fixed their farm system, their minor league team. So all they would do is bring on these new veteran players and put them in the clubhouse, but they would trade away all the young guys, and there was nothing to build off of. So for years, they just couldn't gain traction because these great organizations that you see, the one that just won the World Series, they have a lot of these people that just come up and they cultivate them for years, get them part of the organization, part of the culture. So here, we never want to like have every training with the same 8 people. That's A, it's pretty boring for me. B, after a while, I don't know what to say. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to meet every week. And I'm going to tell you something I learned since last Thursday. I don't, you know, so I really think for us, we're trying to make sure we grow this on so many different levels. Whether that person was hired over here by one person or has a group of 20, 22 agents. And you see that with our inordinate growth. You know, I think that one of the things we been talking a lot about, Jermaine, is how do we facilitate that growth? So you're an independent contractor. How do you facilitate your growth? Well, a lot of that is doing things that challenge you, right? And doing things that make you uncomfortable and changing a little bit in regards to what you're doing. But what we're going to kind of run through this panel today with is yes, some certainly production, because that's important to you. We have a very interesting group today, because what we have is we have you know 4 people here that all the 3 of you, you know, Paige, Priscilla, and Chantal, I think you started off from a production standpoint. I mean, some of you might have started off a little bit quicker, but for the most part, none of you hit the ground writing 30 grand a month. You didn't just like, wow, we started, this is the easiest I've ever done in my entire life, and now I'm good. And Jermaine, I think you know, you were driving Uber, you're working hard, you're working many hours, you were tired of working that many hours for that pay, and you hit the ground sales-wise a little bit faster, you know, for whatever it's worth. And both those are important, you know, really trying to understand, because I think for each of you, what we'll hopefully get into today is, A, why was it difficult? And then what did you do to change it? Because the funny thing is, yeah, we've come up with newer lead options, we've been very proactive and progressive, but it's still you and the client. Once you get there, whatever lead it was that got you there don't much matter. The products, yes, we have great products. We have great carrier relationships. That's a big part of having an IMO, is having good, strong carrier relationships you can maintain and facilitate for a long time. You know, having those is big, but you were still, at the end of the day, when the, you know, proverbial rubber meets the road, it was just you and the client. Right. So I want to start, Paige, with you. You know, I want you to take everybody that's watching and listening today through the progression. A, how long have you been licensed?
Right at 5 years.
Right at 5 years, okay. What will you finish 2018 with issue paid production?
275.
275. What's your previous best year?
Last year at 181.
Okay, and what was the best year before that?
Like 120.
Okay, so, you know, and at 120, are you, you know, that's the thing I think people have to realize, Jermaine, we're in a world today that you have to make $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, if you have real bills, and I don't mean real adult bills, like you're not an adult, but if you're 23 and you don't have any bills, then you don't have to worry. I mean, you may not have to make $100,000. You could be 45 and have no bills. It's not but if you have the bills, you got the mortgage, you got cars, you got insurance, you got children, grandchildren, college education, private school, dance lessons, football, but you name it. If you have those things, it's almost hard to survive without making $100,000 a year. I'm 46 years old. When I was, Jermaine, I know it's hard for you to believe, but when I was a kid, okay, don't get nervous because it's a long time ago. When I was a kid, if you made 100 grand, like, you were like wealthy.
Right.
You know, you're talking about, you know, early 80s, man. It was like, she makes $100,000 a year. And now it's like, you make $1 million. It's just so, you know, when people talk about money, I was making 220 grand. In 82, I'm like, wow, you were rolling in it. I mean, that's,
Right.
so, but think about those numbers, how significant that growth is. 3 or 4 years ago, did you believe you'd ever issue pay $275,000 in a year?
No way.
No way. Why not?
I'd never sold anything.
Okay.
I was a stay-at-home mom who got forced back into work because of the economy tanking.
Okay.
My husband got laid off.
Got it.
And
How scary was that, by the way?
oh gosh, that was the worst day of my life. Yeah, very scary.
How long had he been at his job?
Well, gosh, about 15 years.
God. So
He
15
was the
years.
general manager, and it was power sports, so
Got it.
toys.
Okay.
So when the economy tanked,
Yeah.
people stopped buying toys.
Correct.
Right?
Things people didn't need.
Yeah, and I didn't even know if I could still like talk with adults because I stayed home with the kids. You know, is my brain still going to function? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing that I did work-wise helped us enough financially. So when I saw this opportunity, I don't know why, because I didn't consider myself to be super self-confident, but I had managed at work and I had grown. I went from an admin to a project manager, which was hard to do in the company I was with.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I did have some confidence, but not enough. Not enough belief in myself,
Okay.
but enough to try it.
So when you first started going out and meeting with folks,
Mm-hmm.
okay, first year, let's call it, what was the biggest hang up for you? What was the biggest obstacle? What was the most difficult part of the entire process for you?
I think being too nice
Yeah.
and feeling like I needed to make friends with them,
Mm-hmm.
that they needed to like me for me to be able
Yeah.
to, you know, get them life insurance.
Right.
So I made that mistake of getting too friendly, and then it's easier for them to tell me no.
So-
Plus, I was not trial closing. I wasn't doing no structure, basic
Okay.
train wreck.
Got it. Well, it's okay. Basic. Well, when you say try, I think basic mistakes everybody makes. I think number one, we're raised to think that, you know, whenever you get in any sales organization, everybody talks about rapport building. Everybody, you got to build rapport. When I was in everything I've ever sold, you got to build your rapport. And I'd always go, what does that mean? Because that's a great question. Like, what does that mean to you? Rapport building doesn't. What you got to define for me what that means. You know, and they would say, well, you know what I mean. I'm like, no, if I knew what you meant, I wouldn't ask you. I really need,
Right.
what does that mean? Does that mean that takes 2 minutes, 30 minutes? What do we exchange? What personal things do we discuss? How do we get there to have that kind of rapport? And what I learned in life insurance, even though when I started, I wasn't taught this, what I learned was rapport building in our business is structure, the confidence it takes to show somebody you know what you're doing, and the buy-in you get from the client that you're going to be insanely honest with them the entire time you're working with them. Make sense?
Yes.
Like that's what you're getting, is that buy-in where I'm going to be direct with you and I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to tell you the truth about what you can get, what you can't get, how it's going to work, what it's going to cost, how we're going to move forward. Period, end of story. So for us, when you sit in those homes and you're trying to become everybody's friend, that's easy. We tend to, when we don't know what to do what's easy, right? Like that person's, you know, it's like you're out in public and somebody's saying something to a kid they shouldn't be saying, right? And it's not over the line yet, but you're kind of like, God. And a lot of people just choose to walk away because it's easy. It's easy to go, out of sight, out of mind, it's not really my business. Is it the right thing to do? No. But it's the easy thing to do. You know, is making a friendship with a client and not challenging them the right thing to do if you're worried about yourself? Yes. Because they're never going to judge you, if you will. You know, the first thing I tell new agents is you have to leave the concern about being judged at the door. You know, I don't give a flying anything about being judged. No human being has the right to judge me. No human being has the right to judge you. You've now been deputized to not be worried about being judged. It's over. Don't worry about being judged. They can't judge you. They're going to say if you don't do well, people are going to say stupid stuff about you. If you do really well, they're going to say stupid stuff about you. They're always going to say stupid stuff. Don't let them judge you. What is something you're doing now, Paige, that lets your clients know? What are a couple things you've done to provide structure that have changed the whole in-home appointment for you?
Well, it's tuning into all the trainings. I mean, that's where I learned where I was doing it wrong. So, you know, now I have what I say. You know, I might compliment something on the way to the table. As soon as we sit down, the lead goes in front of the client. I say what I'm here for. I say I'm going to be honest. I ask you to be honest so I can best help you. And then I start the financial inventory worksheet. And that in and of itself is business changing for me as well.
Well, I mean, that's that whole, you know, we keep talking about this all the time, sense of urgency. You got to give people short-term goals and structure. You need to provide that structure. And I think when you get out there, Paige, and because that's what the client expects you to do. See, when you say a few things nice, take 2-3 minutes, sit down, come up with a financial inventory sheet, exchange those, I'm going to be honest, need you to be honest with me, here's my job. That's what they expect you to do. What a lot of agents do when they're struggling or when they're new, or even veteran agents been around for a while and never done well at this, they're so busy doing stuff the client doesn't expect you to do. It's the whole psychology behind who the lead is. See, if I'm a social worker by trade, 15 years, you would never meet with somebody and try to provide them any kind of assessment without researching who they are. You would never do that. Even if none of you have been in social work or have a master's degree and any of that kind of stuff, you get it. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. But somehow, and ours is pretty simple. Our file is one piece of paper. Our background on the client is one piece of paper. And that piece of paper says, I don't know how to get this help. I need this help. And I've asked you to provide it. That's what that one piece of paper says. Our research says that's who this client is. Right. So anytime we try to act like the client's different than that, that's a problem. Does that make sense? So now you start treating the people the way they expect to be treated. Right. And then what happens is when you don't take control, what happens? Of course, they take control. And that's why I always laugh, and I don't mean laugh like in the condescending way. When you talk about all the objections you're getting, when you provide structure, you've seen parents who provide no structure for their kids, right?
Yeah.
And they get eaten alive.
Yes.
And they go, what a bad kid. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, bad parent. Not judging, discerning that you're not a very good parent because, oh my God, what's going on here? Or the one time they want to provide structure when they're out in public. It's like, you wouldn't have to be this out of control if all the other times you provided structure. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, you ain't parenting that child because that child, when I was social worker, they'd be like, he's a terrible kid. I'm like, no, he's not. He just has you for a dad. But I'm here to help fix that because he didn't just one day start acting like this. You know, because you've not provided, you want to be his friend until it's time to discipline him, and that time has passed because now you're his friend over being his parent, providing that kind of structure. So for you, you've learned to go ahead and be that, for lack of a better phrase, parental figure, because my doctor on some level is a parental figure. I don't even know that he's older than me. He's probably not. But he knows about medicine. He knows a heck of a lot more than I do. And when I go in there, I expect him to tell me what to do. I expect him to look at everything, and when I walk into the room and he walks right in, do doctors sit around and talk to you for 25 minutes? No, they're busy. You know when you'd be in trouble if your doctor sat down and talked to you for 25 minutes? You know what you think? Man, what a bad doctor I got. He has nothing else to do, or she has nothing else to do. Yeah. You wouldn't. They walk in, how you doing, shake hands, got charts, this is not going good, okay, boom, how about this, boom, boom. You're out of there in 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? Go here, go with the test over here, come back, see you in 3 weeks. And I see it, boom. Right. Because they're busy. Yeah. Good doctors are busy. And really, what does it matter what I had, you know, what I watched on TV 3 days ago, or what, none of that matters as it pertains to what I'm going through now. Obviously, you're building a team. Have you found a lot of agents struggling with the same stuff you struggled with from day one?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How do you best educate them on that or help them with that?
I try to ask a lot of questions to get to where the roadblock is for them, and also again referring them to the cause and, you know, providing training. Just recently sat down with an agent. She did like her in-home for final expense to me, and then I did mine to her, and she kept saying wait and taking notes. And I don't think that mine was that much better than hers, but she was getting stuff that she thought she should tweak. Right. And it's made a difference in production ever since. Good.
And I think, first of all, whatever you're doing is working, keep doing it. That's always my view. Whatever you're doing is working. And I think the biggest part, too, is remembering how it felt. Don't ever forget what it felt like to walk out of somebody's house, no check, drive 2.5 hours home without making any money, being frustrated with the client, with yourself, with whatever, because you didn't stand up for the client and for yourself. Right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that becomes a very frustrating deal. for everybody. So you have to make sure you put yourself in there. So like, I love you, but I want you to do this quicker than I ever did it. I don't have an answer for you other than you need to stand up. And a lot of times what I tell people is if you're uncomfortable, say it. You know, I got to be honest with you, this is not my favorite part of the job, Chantal, but you're getting ready to make a mistake. And with all due respect, I can't allow you to do that. This form you sent me says you need the help, you want the help, you'd like me to provide you the help. And now you're saying you don't need the help. Nothing's changed since you filled this out 3 days ago. So with all due respect, you have to teach people to do that. You know, I always love when we start training, because you see people go like, they kind of roll their eyes like, you really say that? I'm like, and I should go like, you really don't. I mean, we're trying to help people. If they don't get uncomfortable, nothing changes, right? You walk into the house, they're here, you're there. We're just trying to get everybody into the middle. So, well, I appreciate you sharing. Thank you very much. Priscilla, how long have you been licensed for?
About 4 years.
About 4 years. What were you doing before this?
Banking.
Banking, okay. Were you in sales there at all, or just like personal banking?
I didn't realize I was, but I was.
Okay, you were.
Every job's a sales job.
Got
right?
it, okay. You weren't paid commission, that was hourly?
Both.
Yep, so you got added money, okay.
Right.
How did you do there? Did you do pretty well commission-wise?
Did really well.
Good, did really well. So when you got your license, you think you do pretty good?
I did.
Yeah, okay, because you had done pretty well. How did it go the first 30, 60, 90 days selling life insurance?
Terrible.
Terrible, how come?
I didn't work.
Okay, explain that.
So I didn't work. So when I was at the bank, of course, I had hours. So I think that, you know, it was a mental thing, like I had to show up, so
Yeah.
I did it. And then once I got into life insurance, I had another part-time job. I was working also at a salon. So since I had to be there, I focused on that and not life insurance.
Got it.
So I just didn't do it.
Got it. So you get, isn't it funny where you have your job, you go to work?
Right.
Because you have to. Fear of loss. But you couldn't provide yourself your own fear of loss as an independent contractor. Right? That's why we go to work. We go to work because we don't want to get written up. We don't want to lose our job. We maybe don't even want to be asked why we didn't go to work. Whatever it is, that's why we attend work.
Right.
We're not making as much money as you are as an independent contractor. And isn't it funny that you can go make the same money you made in a week in 10 hours here, and instead of doing your other 30, you take a step back and go, I'm good. Then you find stuff you want to do, right? Like,
Right.
I'm going to go here, I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to take my son to do this. And not that those are terrible things, it's just you still have to do your 40 hours a week. And then what happens is a policy cancels or something else happens, then it's the end of the world. And then you're frustrated at the industry. And I'm like, but what about your 10 hours of work a week?
Right.
I know you're mad here, but you let yourself down by not doing your 40. Like, I don't have an answer if you don't do your 40 hours a week.
Right.
I think that's the deal. How did you change that?
So I think a big part of it, you know, I can look at it like I wasn't good at it, right? But when I look back at it now, I think, Shawn, it was more of, I worked at the salon for the better of me. It was my family salon, so I was doing it to help them, right? So that was my reason, to help my family grow. And then once I realized, well, it's not helping me, and it's not the fact that I'm bad at this, it's just the fact that I don't give enough hours, enough time, and invest in myself. That's what changed, because actually I started working.
And that's hard, right? like, you know, you want to do for you and your son.
Right.
You're being pulled over here. You know, like when I was working at the state, you're like, man, are you really going to leave? And you know, really could use you to stay. And it's not that I didn't appreciate that they wanted me to stay, but they wanted me to stay because they want to fill my job, which I understand. You know, that's more work, right? I'm there. I've been there 13 years. I'm pretty good at it. Why fill my job? But at some point in time in your life, you just have to kind of go like, you know what? I got to go do what I need to do.
Right.
I need to go handle my business, and I got to give this thing a shot. I think that's the other struggle for people, is that they don't just they talk about taking a shot for 10, 15, 20 years. Like, your husband put all that time into that place for 15 years, and I'm sure didn't walk away with some huge severance package and here's your money. Just have a nice life.
Right.
We'll pay you for the last week or two, and good luck. And you got to look out for you. And that's the world we live in nowadays. I'm just saying that, you know, that many years ago, man, companies, they just didn't, this isn't the day of, you know, 4 company picnics a year and you work here 35 years, you get your retirement. It was a good career and you're going to get $100 grand a year for the rest of your life. Priscilla, and you don't have to work at all, and you have medical benefits as well. You never have to worry about anything ever again the rest of your life. It doesn't work that way. You got to control your situation. And I like what you said. I think, Paige, you probably find the same thing if you really looked at it. Yes, you got better in the home, but what happens is when you're not doing well, it's easy to not work.
Right.
I have a bad day. It's, you know, and I understand you can have a great day and it's hard because you'll take time off too, but you have a terrible day and then it's really easy to go, you know, I get back to the drawing board, or I got to get, and the trainings are important, obviously, because that's where you get the trial clothes, the inventory, all that stuff. It's not like we, you know, you've gotten that because you listened in and you found what worked for you and what didn't. And all the training, that's why I love about our trainings. They're so eclectic. There's so many different people doing it different ways. And I always tell people, however it works, I think that's what makes great coaches.
Right.
You know, if you watch some pro athletes do the stuff they do, my son's pitching coach said to me the other day, he says, well, I tried this. I saw Chris Sale do it. My son's left hand, he's like, Chris Sale's a freak, bro. Of course he can bring his leg over here out of the plane, bring it back in, still deliver the ball, and throw it 100 some odd miles an hour. You're not a freak. You need to do it this way, bud. You can't, but no way should those coaches mess with him because he's unbelievable. Why would you, whatever he's doing, it's working, let him go. And if you find it funny, if you get to an elite level and watch the way the elite people do it, it's usually very different because everybody's different. Now, it's not dramatic, like when I say very different, meaning this guy puts his foot here, does it for people talking about sports and athletics. It seems like a lot, but you're arriving at the same place. So if you're calling on this on these days compared to these days, you're saying this compared to this, as long as it's working, it doesn't matter. But the one thing that trumps everything is put your 40 hours in.
Right.
If you put your 40 hours in, nothing else matters. And I mean nothing matters, right? I mean there's nothing that can happen. If you were Priscilla to provide, you do mostly mortgage, final expense, which one?
Mortgage.
Mortgage, okay. Do you do any final expense or just have to do mostly mortgage?
Mainly mortgage.
Just mainly mortgage, okay. And that's part of when you build your business too. Like I was only final expense when I started, I didn't have any mortgage leads. Right. And then I got mortgage, but I always tried to stay close to 50-50 because I wanted to train everybody. I always knew that, you know, final expense leads we can print about anywhere, especially what we're doing on social media, Facebook. So, but doing both. If you were to provide one tip on mortgage protection, something that's really changed your business, whether it's been better quality, premiums, whatever it is, what would that one thing be?
The one thing would be just in general, just to work 40 hours, give it the 40 hours, and when you go in the home, know who you are, know your reason for being there, and know the reason why the client filled out the form because they do need help.
How many appointments you want to run a week usually?
Now, 20 to 25.
Got it. Okay. How much are you going to issue pay this year?
This year, I worked 6 months of the year, so I
Got
issue pay about, I think, close to 200.
Working 6 months out of the year. That's crazy. I mean, so you'll do 400 grand next year if you choose to.
Most definitely.
Most definitely. Okay. I don't doubt you. You said that very. Most definitely. Okay. It's like when you meet the client. Most definitely. So I need to get this one. Most definitely. They're going to do it. So, well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jermaine.
Yes, sir.
How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing phenomenal.
That is good to hear. How long you been working with us, Jermaine?
16 months.
16 months.
Yeah, since June of last year. So 16 or 17, I think.
Got it. How much you going to issue pay 2018?
400,000.
400 grand.
Yeah.
Had you sold life insurance before this?
No.
Okay. You want to share with everybody how you got hired because it's a really cool story.
Yeah, sure. So I was an Uber driver and I picked up Mike Kilmet's admins, Brittany and her sister, and they were telling me about the agency and about how much money agents were making, and I was like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so I changed contact information and got on a couple of calls and saw some of the leaderboards, and I was like, wow, this might be legitimate. So that's kind of my story, and I reached out and got connected with Mike.
How long did it take you to get a license?
7 days.
7 days.
Yeah, 7 days. Started the exam. Mike was actually heading to Hawaii on one of the previous carrier trips.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, here's what you need to do, have your license by the time I get back. And it was a 7-day trip. So got my license, studied, went, took the exam, got licensed.
Did you go full-time right away?
For like 3 weeks in, I went full-time. I was still Ubering for the first 3 weeks, and then I got paid, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore.
I'm good. What are you going to, so you have 400 grand this year. Jermaine, did you start out, were you working 40 hours a week once you stopped Ubering? Were you working 40 hours a week?
Yes, I was.
What allowed you, now you'd already been Uber, so you already were independent.
Yeah.
So he was already out there because Uber, right, you can work or not, you get your deal, you can go in when you want to. What are a few things that have allowed you to make sure you go to work regardless? Because you could have slacked off. I mean, 400 grand's a lot. That's a lot more than you're making at your previous job, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So you could have easily taken some more days and time and hours off. What, A, do you ever have those feelings? And B, if you do, what do you do about those?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you again for having me here. Thank you, Galen, Michelle, and Mike Kilmet for their mentorship. And a part of that is why, I kind of work as hard, because you guys set the bar so high and what you've been able to accomplish. So it keeps me motivated. But yeah, I did get out the gate working hard. My wife who's here and 2 daughters, so I have to work hard because there's plenty of mouths to feed and clothes to buy. And so it's got that external motivation plus the internal motivation of what I want to accomplish financially. And on those days when it is difficult, yes, I have them, and my wife and I were talking about them. It's kind of taking the feeling out of it as far as, hey, this is about me and what I want to do, and more about, these clients ask for my help, so I'm obligated to go help them. And in addition to that, I have a team now, so those guys need my help, and I got to lead from the front. So that's kind of the motivational factor. If that internal motivation isn't there, then I lean on that external motivation to get me going and get done what needs to be done.
Got it. What's your schedule? What's your dial days? What's your run days? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I kind of run the Kilmet schedule. Monday dial for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday dial for Friday, Saturday. And I run about 20, 25 appointments a week.
Got it. Been doing that since day one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was your close ratio, I mean, obviously you've learned some things along the way, but starting out early on, I mean, truthfully, what percentage were you closing? Let's take after you left driving, 3 weeks, you worked less full time. What percentage would you close in a given week?
Probably like 25 to 50%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about now?
50 to 70%. Yeah.
Okay. So what are you doing now that you sure as heck weren't doing when you were doing 25 to 50?
One, it's being more direct. I can remember from the beginning when I got started, I was completely uncomfortable with being direct with folks. I thought it was being rude. I'm not a confrontational person. I hate confrontation, and having to do that didn't come naturally. So I had to learn. I learned from listening to the calls. I learned from asking questions on how to better ask questions in the home, and then be willing to, like you say, not care about what the clients think, but care about what's in their best interest. And that was difficult, and talking more directly as far as saying, hey, Bob, what if something were to happen to you? No, Bob, if you die tomorrow, you stop breathing, you don't wake up. Being more direct in my terminology in the home so that it brings the emotion of, the moment and what we're taking care of, make it more real. So I had to get better at that and be more confident and comfortable being uncomfortable.
Did you just get better by just doing it? Was there something you would say in the house when you were going to be, when you were at that confrontational? Because it is, right? Nobody, I mean, again, I always joke like I don't mind confrontation. You know what I mean? So everybody's different, right? And it's not, sometimes I wish I did, sometimes I wish nobody's perfect, right? We're all different human beings. But when it's for the right reasons, you know? But we're raised to not, I mean, we don't want it, right? We're not raised, we taught to avoid it. I mean, in general. And the problem with our business is, I always say this, 25% of the clients are going to buy it no matter what. That was your 25.
Yeah.
Then 25% are going to buy it with like barely any questions. That's how you got to 50 early on, didn't know what you were doing yet, but he was working 40 hours a week. So he may not have been any better than y'all, he was working 40 hours a week, right? So he was working 40 hours a week, closing 25 to 50, and y'all were working 15, 20 hours a week, so you couldn't keep up. And then it become more desperate working 15 to 20 hours a week, so it's not even a fair half, because he's not as desperate. So now how you would want to be in the home, you become more desperate with 1 appointment in a day, or 3 in a week, or 8 in a week. It's like, I gotta close it. I gotta get the sale. And then you're desperate, and then all of a sudden it's like, what am I gonna do? Or as Matt Smith aptly defines it, commission breath. I mean, like, what are you gonna do, right? Like it's oozing out of you, so it's oozing off of you. Jermaine, when you look at now, how are you uncomfortable at all talking to a client about this stuff?
In some cases, I still am.
Still am. Like, give me an example. What's still something uncomfortable? I'm curious.
Well, like if you've got a husband and wife, and kind of pushing the envelope as far as making it real for them, it's still uncomfortable talking about somebody. Hey, Bob, if Bob dies, and especially if it's a young couple, and kind of putting them in that position, and I have to, because they probably thought about it and not enough to plan for it, and now we got to take care of it. So yeah, I'm still a little bit comfortable there.
And your mom's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. I met your mom. I'm sure you were raised to be insanely respectful,
yeah.
like crazy, which I'm not, by the way, should be.
Yeah.
That was the problem I had with Mike early on. I'm like, well, I don't get this. Like, these people fill out this card, they want final expense, they're older, they've acknowledged that they're going to pass away, they've acknowledged they don't have this coverage. What are you doing, man? And then you start peeling away the onion. It's like he's raised by, you know, a guy who's a military guy, a cop, and now I'm telling him to tell 72-year-olds when he's in his 20s that, heck, what is wrong with you? You all need to get this coverage. And then it was like, but if you care about him, you can't, it ain't about you, man. Your dad didn't raise you to not confront things when they're wrong either. So you can't have both ways. Your mom raised you the right way to be professional and be respectful. Yeah. No doubt. But she also raised you to do the right thing.
True.
And the right thing when you're sitting, and listen, we're all imperfect, believe me. You know, I'm a leader of the pack. But but when we see somebody in need, we have to be willing to put away the stuff that would bother us and go help them. It doesn't mean, it's kind of like people say to me, what stops people from issuing $400,000 a year? I go, just the things that get in the way. I mean, it's just when it's uncomfortable and inconvenient. I mean, everybody in theory's great. That's why things always sound better if you're not trying them yet. That'll be great if I go try that over there. It's like, okay, well, it's theory. And then you go try it, and it's like, it didn't really work. Yeah, because it was theory. Theory always seems perfect until you go to the applicability of it. You know, so you actually go try to do it. So for us, it's really looking at, okay, now, how do I go ahead and continue to do the things that I'm doing? And it's okay to acknowledge I'm still at times I'm uncomfortable. And that's okay. And when you're working with your agents, but that's where the growth comes from. Yeah. Now, you've also been doing this for a minute. Like, it's been barely a year and change. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you're like, wow, he's still uncomfortable. Yeah, he's been doing it for like a little over a year. We have people that come to us that have been doing this for 25 years and can't do what you do. They've been selling life insurance allegedly for 25 years. And I go, you've not been selling anything. You've been selling you on why you not being honest with the client is good for the client. You ain't been selling the client. You've been selling you on how you sit down and make friends with people and never ever challenge their weakness and what they're doing. My analogy to clients all the time was like, guys, when I couldn't get them going further, I'd be like, this is like, there's a dam, right? There's a dam and there's a hole in it. It doesn't mean the entire dam's broken. You fill this out because there's a hole in it. It doesn't mean your world's ending tomorrow. It means I need to take this, put it in that hole so the water stops leaking through. That could be just the mortgage because of you. If something happens to your husband, that could be just for your wife. Whatever it was, because your life insurance at work, you've watched people leave and you know that's going to go. You know you don't have enough. You looked online and realized that you make $70,000 a year. You get your life insurance is $200,000 a year, which isn't even 3 years of salary. Whatever that hole is, I'm not saying everything about you is messed up. I'm saying you fill this card out because there's a hole and the dam's leaking. The problem is if it keeps leaking and keeps leaking and keeps leaking, eventually the hole's going to get bigger and then the destruction is going to be a lot worse. Let's just plug the hole now. Because I don't want you to think that everything's so terrible. It's just, you know, you guys have acknowledged that you're uncomfortable. So for me to help you, we all got to get uncomfortable. You got to get, hey, because when you filled this out, you were feeling something. Yeah. What was it? You know, and asking closed-ended questions. You know, open-ended questions are dangerous. You know, I'm assuming you filled this out because, boom, boom, boom. 99% of my clients fill this out because, boom, boom, boom. The trial closes. So obviously, as we look at this, wait, I don't even know if you're going to be eligible. If we look at it and everything comes back the same, and I tell you to the penny what it costs, and it costs that to the penny when you get the policy, any reason you wouldn't keep the policy? No, of course I would. Okay, just making sure. What if I decide I don't want to keep it? Okay, let me ask you something. What would make you make that decision? So as we sit here today, Paige, what would be something that would happen from now until the policy being delivered that you would go, I don't want to keep it? Because if there is something, let's discuss it. And answering questions with a question. That's the other thing you all gotten really good at. You know, would like to think about it. What does that mean? I'm not falling in that trap. Well, Jermaine, what does that mean, bud? Well, you know, it means we just like to think about it, me and my wife. I go, okay, well, explain to me. I'm here. I'm not trying to be difficult at all. What does that mean to you? You know, well, it's tough for us to make a decision the first time. Yeah, the problem with life insurance is it seems like 93% of the time that people buy it, it's the first time. If they don't buy it the first time, it seems about 100% of the people don't buy it ever. That's where we're in trouble, bud. These stats that say if I talk about it once and I don't go ahead and do it, and if I walk out your door and don't get you covered, the odds that you're ever going to call anybody else are slim and none. And as a guy I used to know said, we used to say, Slim just walked out the door. So it's all none. You know what I mean? It's all none. So I mean, it's one of these things where we just got to put ourselves in a position to go ahead and challenge and protect. And protecting people isn't easy. Protecting people means you have to have difficult conversations. But you got to be willing to do that. You got to be willing to stand up, good, bad, or indifferent, and allow them to think whatever they want to think about you. But at the end of the day, as long as they know everything you tried was to help them, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
You got a team. How much you guys issue pay last month?
142,000.
140. Just missed 150.
Yeah.
Just missed VP.
Yeah.
What are y'all gonna hit this month?
We definitely hitting 100.
You definitely hit 150. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. And what do you? Just so I understand, what is your goal by the end of 2019 for your team? So if we were sitting here a year from now, or right around it, a year from now, at the end of the year, what would you be happy with monthly issue paid for your team?
Being that our goal is to finish the year with 200,000, and I want to be able to be, our goal is to be doing at least $500,000 a month by the end of 2019.
Would you think it'd be crazy if I said you could definitely do $1 million a month by the end of 2019?
No, I don't think you're
Okay.
crazy.
So when Andrew was looking at Andrew's business a year ago, and he's doing 350 or 4, and now he's doing $1.2 million in 8 months. I mean, it's very realistic. There's nothing magical about it. It's just you're already willing to work.
Yeah.
So it's, are you willing to put the infrastructure in place to do it? Are you willing to continue to do what you're doing sales-wise? You'll eventually have to back down your sales.
Yeah.
And that's part of, you're going to have to. So you back down your sales as you build this team, but then you build a real business. And I have no doubt you can get there. So I appreciate you sharing. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Say hi to your wife. Your wife's over there. Hi. She's over there in the corner. All right, Chantal. How long have you been licensed to sell life insurance?
Coming up on 4 years.
Coming up on 4 years. What are you going to finish this year with issue paid?
Probably 310
310. What was your best year prior to this year?
last year.
How much?
314.
314. Okay, so pretty consistent. 3 and 3. What about before that? I'm just curious how the progression went.
The year before that was 224.
Got it. And what was your first year?
I don't even know.
100 and change?
Oh no.
Oh no, smaller than that. Okay.
Yeah.
So were you working full time your first year?
No.
No, you weren't. Okay. So the second year was your first full time year?
Correct.
Okay. So since you've been full time, you're 200 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Had you sold before? Anything? Nothing. What was your background in professionally?
Information technology.
That is definitely not like life insurance.
No.
Whenever I don't know what somebody does, I go, that's interesting. You know, I know what information is, I know what technology is, but I don't know exactly what y'all would do. But if you were my client, I would ask, because I want you to
Right.
talk about it and make me feel good, and I would tell you how smart that is and how I never engage in those things, because my math classes or IT classes are like math for poets in college. What are some things that, Chantal, that you're seeing agents do? You're working with agents now, you, Paige, the whole crew, you got a good meeting going in Raleigh. What are some things you're seeing that are happening with newer agents that you brought on, whether they're new to the business or not, that is inhibiting their ability to get to $20,000 a month they should pay? What are some things they're doing, whether it's dialing, schedule, leads, work? I mean, I know there's a lot of it we talked about. What are some things specifically they're doing?
I think leads is a big part of it,
Be more specific.
and not getting enough.
Why don't they get enough leads?
Financial.
Okay. They can't or they won't afford to do it.
They may not balance things out right, like investing back in themselves. They pay their bills first.
Well, they pay their bills first, which you got to pay your bills. I'm just saying, I'm a big believer in paying your bills. What I find a lot of times is, here's a question I always just ask. I did this with a guy the other day. He's a big Red Sox fan, and he's trying to get leads. And I said, can I ask you something? He goes, yeah. I said, Game 1 of the World Series in Boston, 2 tickets. You in? He goes, yes. I go, all right, now I'm not giving them to you. I don't have tickets. I'm saying you got to buy them. Are you in? Yes. Okay, so they're good seats. They're 10 rows off the first base dugout, which is where the Red Sox sit during the game, and they are $800 a piece. 2 tickets, $600. Are you in? Yes. You have the money? Well, I can come up with it. I got some money. Okay, so now I don't have tickets, so let it go. You're not going to the game, so now that part's over. But you have the money. You'd go to the game for 2.5 to 3 hours to hang out, sit in traffic, watch a game. It has no impact on your family, your finances, nothing. But when I'm saying you need to invest $700, $800, $900 in the leads, you can't come up with the money. See, it's all priorities, because in today, everybody that we work with, it's just like all of our clients. I mean, they're our clients. I mean, they have homes, they have cars, for the most part, they have phones. They're not broke. They're not broke. I mean, nobody in America is really broke. I mean, it's saying it's, you know, that whole like first world problems kind of deal. Like, you know, really kind of gives you perspective. But same thing with the agent. Now, I think one of the things we have to do is, and I'm a big, you know, we help people as they get started and give them some leads and help them get a little bit until we get them moving. But at the end of the day, I am looking for people. How long did anybody buy you leads, Jermaine?
Just my first 30 days.
First 30 days, right? Gave him the leads and then cut you out on your own.
Yeah.
Did you think that was abnormal? They weren't going to buy him forever for you?
Oh, no.
No.
I was surprised I got him.
Surprised you got him for 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Now, why? Because he was looking to be empowered, not enabled. And I think one of the things our job is, Chantal, is listen, people come in with, when I got my license, I wasn't in a bad financial spot. I mean, nobody ever bought me leads, but I didn't have, in 2008, when I got my license, if I had $400 in the bank, that was something. I wasn't going to games. I was paying my bills. I was just literally paying my bills. Probably had $400 or $500. I used a credit card to buy leads. I had a credit card. That's how I bought my leads for like my first probably 5 months. And I didn't make money for a while. I didn't have what we have here at FFL President. I had a very different setup, so it was much harder to move my way up and make money. So at the end of the day, it was a real difficult process. But what I knew was I wasn't going to go any further without investing my money. So I think and you can't make anybody do anything. So from a lead standpoint, all you can do is show them. So I always like to show like 400 grand, here's my schedule, here's my leads. So if you want to do 400 grand and you're not willing to do either one of these two, let's change the goal. Let's bring it to like 150. Because this is leads and schedule for 400 grand. Just like you, leads and schedule for 300 grand is this. Well, I want to do 300 grand, Chantal. Well, hey, I'd also like to have a six-pack and be built like The Rock, but I'm not going to eat salmon 17 times a day. And I'm not going to work out. How long does it work out, Mike, a day? 4 hours?
Probably 4 to 6.
4 to 6. I ain't doing that either, Jermaine. I don't like working out that much. I have a job. I can't work out that much. So that's going to stop me. So they go, you want to look like him? And I go, yeah, what I got to do? They go, you have to do all this stuff. I go, can't do all that. Is there a smaller program that I can do that includes Burger King? Not every day, but Whopper with cheese every once in a while. Can I get that program over here and maybe I can do 45 minutes a day workout? I can't squeeze all that. I can't work out 6 hours a day. I have a job, So I think that's one of the things you have to educate people on, right? And you can't and I think a lot of times we get so stuck trying to make somebody do something. And it's like, that's exhausting to you. You're going to exhaust yourself by doing that. What else? Leads is one of them. What's one other
I
thing?
think schedule, being intentional and diligent with their schedule.
I think it's always important for people to know if they can manage themselves. Can you manage your own schedule? I can't babysit you every day, and I don't mean babysit in a derogatory way, I just can't. But what can I do to help you manage your schedule? Because that's the single hardest thing, right? It's like, you get a kid who's in high school and busy and everything else, they go to college and they're like, oh my God. Because nobody's going to make them go to class. Right. Mom's not going to go. If they're living on campus, mom's not going to go, hey, you got to get up. Hey, did you do your homework? Hey. So how are you going to be prepared to go ahead and be independent? That's always tell people. So you already were independent. But if you come out from a job or you were home, and that might even prepared you, but you had to work. So like home, that's nonstop, being a home mom. So it's kind of like, if you have a job where it's like they told me what to do and when to be there 40 hours a week, and now nobody's telling me what to do. What do I do? What do I do next? How do I embrace my independence? Everybody wants to be independent until they're independent.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do I embrace it? I don't know. You just gotta go. And I think at the end of the day, I tracked my hours in like an old school planner. That's what I did. I wrote down how many hours I worked every week. I did it for me. I didn't hand it to anybody. Nobody requested it. Nobody. And any time, Paige, my numbers were down a little bit, I found that it was like that week where I would be like, I barely hit 40 hours, or maybe I kind of said it was 40, but really it was drive time and dial in, or I dialed at my house, but I really didn't dial for 4 hours. I kind of dialed for 2, but I put 4 to make myself feel better. 8 to 12 dialing, but I really dialed for an hour and 20 minutes when I think about it. So now it wasn't. Or I drove over here, but I went to my buddy's house. And then I went over there and watched a game in between my appointments, and that was 2 hours. I really didn't work 40 hours a week, so I got crazy on 40 and 40 hours a week of me being in front of folks, talking to them, helping them, dialing the phone, that kind of stuff. So in closing, when you listen to all 4 of you talk, when I listen to all 4 of you talk, I think about the consistent things, right? And I think we see this across the country. This isn't we all live in different parts of the country, Atlanta, California, North Carolina. You got schedule, right? You got hours, you got attitude, you got willingness to get uncomfortable, you get ability to set control, willingness to confront people when they're making a bad decision, training calls and picking up things that you didn't know. How do you get better? You get around people that know how they're doing it. How do you get better at, a lot of these athletes that just, take 10,000 round balls a week, dude, see how good you get. If you're already athletic, you're going to be pretty darn good. Your gross motor skills are just going to kick in. That's what y'all are doing now. You're running 40 hours a week, which is a full-time job anyway. It's not like it's anything crazy. And now all of a sudden you know what to say every step of the way because you've done it enough.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys all joining us. I really do. Appreciate you being in town. Appreciate the meeting that we have. Mr. Shawn Ruggiero, annuities, IULs, it's all yours. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate you, buddy.
Hi everyone, this is Shawn Ruggiero. I'm here today with Victor Valenzuela, and we are going to interview you about your early success with FFL, but also specifically with annuities and some of that advanced market. So let's start off with this, the first question. How long have you been with Family First Life?
I've been writing with Family First Life for this year. So I got contract in November, but about a year I've been writing.
Okay, 12 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And year to date, life and annuities separate. What's your year-to-date issue paid?
I don't know the exact numbers because there's a blend, but I believe with life it's around 240,000, and then annuities it's I think right around 300,000.
Yeah, really good numbers coming out the gates. You know, so $540,000 that puts you in the Hall of Fame your first year, right? It's got to feel good. But I know in speaking with you, off camera over the past few months, your goals are even higher. And you have a lot of business in the pipelines for annuities recently. You've really picked up steam with that. So, the question that most people have, Victor, is, if he's doing this, and you're working full time, you actually work very hard, what sort of lead program do you deploy, right? How much you spend on leads? Are you using mortgage protection, final expense, anything like social media? Tell us a little bit about your lead program so agents can kind of gauge where they're at with that program.
Yeah. So to mention on that is I predominantly run mortgage protection, life insurance leads. I find those to be the most valuable. But because they're limited, I do a blend of final expense too. And final expense has certain advantages that mortgage protection don't. So I do a blend of about 10 to 15 mortgage protection leads per week and 20 to 50 final expense Facebook leads per week. I like to do 50 if I can because the appointment rate is harder, but the closing ratio I think in some scenarios can be higher from what I've just looked at in my own stats. And that's my personal blend. What I've spent a lot of time on and focused on since I came over here has been team building. So I've spent a lot of time and used a lot of my resources to support other agents to grow a team and figuring out that process. Leads are really the lifeline to this business. So you've got to figure out a good, consistent lead blend. And I think if you're not running a blend of leads and constantly looking at new ways to run leads, it can affect you negatively in the long-term game of this and production-wise. And I've learned that through my own mistakes too. So.
Yeah, well, and that's important. So of the 10 to 15 mortgage protection, the 20 to 50 Facebook final expense leads, is that just for your production or do you spread that amongst
That's just for me.
Okay, so you have your agents
personally
trying to replicate that.
Yeah, that's what I want everybody. So I want a systematic approach of leads so you can calculate numbers, and the more organized you are with this and keeping track of everything, like I keep really meticulous spreadsheets so I can see where we can fix and do better. And so I can know if it's a lead issue or if it's an actual issue with the sales process of the actual individual. So myself, that works really well for me to produce. Like if I'm really in the field full time, like this last month, I was in the field full time and I haven't been in the field full time for a while. And this last month, that's the system I worked, and I submitted 51,000 of mortgage protection life insurance, and so far I've issued from that 41,000 of it. Some of the billing payment schedule is in the following month, so it's not going to show up on my numbers, which I didn't realize that would do since the new America process. But if you do it right full time, that's a lot of mortgage life premium to submit.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to get everybody to be able to do 25 to 30 grand a month because they'll have the income that they want to really sustain and enjoy this job.
Yeah, that's it. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
It's about making the money. If
Yeah.
we have a early success and believability that we can make money, or if we see someone who's making money and we know that we can replicate that, those are the key ingredients.
Yeah.
So speaking about key ingredients for early success, you have had good traction. I know Spencer Fagioni, he's someone that sat down with him before. Yeah, he's done well. But you've had traction with agents early on. warm market, cold market, right? So just like your lead makeup, how are you getting introduced to new agents, and how do you go about that?
It's been a blend. I had a previous insurance career before coming to Family First Life, and so some of the people that I worked with in a former insurance job have came over and tried to work with Family First Life. Some have stuck, some have left, and then I've used Craigslist recruiting has worked really well for me. I've tried InsuraSeek and some ZipRecruiter before, but Craigslist works really well. Just Craigslist ads, and then the recruiting meetings do well too. If you can just really, referral systems work well. If you see somebody that has potential that could do well in a sales setting, mainly if anybody that can have a conversation and likability, I think, and a will to learn, can do really well at this job. And so I almost prefer somebody that has no insurance or financial service experience, so then they don't have any preconceived ideas of what's going to work and what's not. It's like they're more of an open slate to jump right in and be more susceptible to listen to the techniques that we already have, because there's a proven system that works here. And to uncondition somebody that already thinks they know exactly what to do, mortgage protection life insurance sales are different than a traditional term life insurance sale that you do at like a captive insurance company like New York Life. So retraining somebody's mindset of how to do this can take longer sometimes, and I've learned that. So.
Yeah, and to Victor's point, you'll hear Shawn Meaike talk about this all the time. Average agent, 59-year-old male Caucasian, makes $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's full time. There's a reason for that. And if the average agent, so if you're trying to just recruit licensed agents, that's what you're going to be recruiting. When you talk about recruiting people who are unlicensed, okay, you have a younger demographic that you can attract. You have a blank canvas, so you can really teach them the right habits, the right products, the right sales system. And it's kind of like an offense. You could run the wing T or you could run a spread offense. And as long as you buy in and everybody buys in, you can be productive. So I think that's a key ingredient. I know a lot of agents have been using the social insurance leads, the hiring leads. That's becoming a very popular thing. So they can get in front of an agent or get in front of a person who's interested, who is not an agent yet. And I think the big advantage that we have, and I know you've been using this, is the ExamFX free licensing vouchers.
Yeah.
And
huge
this
advantage.
is, so what spin do you put on that? Because I know that's something that agents like yourself are using to attract new agents.
I think with the spin that I put on it is just to highlight that we as a hiring manager are going to subsidize and take care of the cost to get them licensed. We believe in them. And so the interest that we are going to support the endeavor and not just be like another IMO, so to speak, that would be a competitor of us where it's like, hey, you got to pay for this, or your downline may pay for this. It helps a lot because that will instill some sort of interest in the fact that, hey, this hiring manager believes in me, they're going to take care of this. I have less worry about taking the exam too, and I think it has an intrinsic value in the sense where emotionally it drives the person to want to succeed too, because you're taking care of it for them. And I know, like, for example, if I was a new agent and you reached out to me and were like, hey, I'm going to pay for your licensing exam, versus, hey, you got to pay for your licensing exam, I'm not going to think you really care as much to where you want to see me succeed. So I think it's really beneficial just from the psychological aspect of it, that it'll help hire new people, and it gives them an easier barrier to entry because you're helping them with the licensing exam fee. Yeah,
it's amazing what making an investment in someone can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, getting back to annuities, that's really one of the things I want to highlight here is tell us about writing your first annuity. Because the first annuity, unless it's your mom giving you an annuity, right? Your first annuity is always the hardest annuity. And once that comes, the rest come a little bit easier. So tell us about writing your first annuity.
I have a good story on that. So when I started insurance, it was 4 years ago. And my first annuity is, before insurance, I was an aspiring pro golfer. So I used to give golf lessons on the side. And one of my clients that I gave golf lessons to owned a mail shop. And so he was well off. He let me sell him some life insurance just because we had a good relationship. And Farm Bureau had this income annuity where you could either choose an accumulation bucket, similar to an FIA, S&P tied, and then it had a simple interest roll-up option where for 20 years we would pay 7% simple interest. So the simple interest side was attractive. Farm Bureau didn't have the most competitive annuities, but it was a good annuity. And so I researched it, positioned it to him, went on a few meetings with him, played some golf with him, and finally, after he did some feedback with his other advisors, he ended up rolling some money into the annuity and just did the 20-year 7% simple interest option. But I was excited because it was a good comp for me. Obviously, rolling did $250,000, and so early in my insurance career, I had some success, and it was nice to have larger paychecks come in quickly. And I think annuities can do that. I mean, there's really no cap to what you can do with annuities. Same with life insurance. So to have the stability of income from, you know, playing golf, it was so volatile. It was a good feeling, and I was excited about it. And then it just gave me more of a hunger to want to target annuities more in advanced market products because of the interest I have with them, but also to what it does for the long term for them.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, exactly. And to think now with some of the uncapped strategies, the proprietary index strategies that we have, now it's getting better and better. Those FIA products are becoming better every year.
Yeah, if people really evaluate the volatility control index that you can allocate some of your strategy in is hugely beneficial. Like we talked about the other day, the FIA Athene has, the Performance Elite Series, it really mimics a balanced portfolio. And you can capture some huge upside with these FIAs to where the main thing is the income floor that you provide for your clients. If you explain it to them properly, it's a really good tool. And some of the index and indices that Athene has, proprietary indices, if you compare them to other annuity products that I've worked with a lot of different other annuity companies, and I really think it's the most amazing FIA out there. So we have access to it, which is huge.
We do. And speaking of the indexes, speaking of capturing gains, I was actually speaking to Spencer this morning. He has a client who has over about $2 million. He was probably talking to you about that. And we were looking at the performance of some mutual funds, historical data. And we saw 3 years it had earned 17%. Okay? It's pretty good, right? 17% average. I said, Spencer, here's how powerful that can be in your favor selling an FIA. This has performed at 17%. Now, over the last 3 weeks, it was like minus 4% because the market is starting to correct itself. So that 17%, how much did you gain? And the answer is 0 because you didn't sell. So it gives you that idea that, you know, not only am I battling potentially negative crediting when I'm in the market, but these upside gains aren't as good as I think because unless you sell at the right time, you don't capture them. And I think that's what we're going to find a lot of. And if you're listening to this, you got to challenge your clients. You got to challenge your friends and family, those who are looking to retire, that, you know, hey, how much have you captured? When are you going to sell off? Because now's a great time. If you go from the market being high, starting to come down a little bit, and switch over to Performance Elite, maybe get a transfer bonus to make up for some of those losses and gap, you never have to worry about going backwards again. Yet you still get upside crediting.
Exactly. That's the main thing is the predictable income that you can provide for your clients. And we've talked about it before, sequence of return risks, if you need short-term income needs, is it can ruin somebody's retirement. So if you don't balance it out, an annuity can solve a lot of that, especially the reason why I like the Performance Elite products is they have a short-term income need and a long-term income need. And you can really, I mean, some of the upside you can get with the uncapped strategies is nuts. I almost thought it was fraudulent when I was evaluating it because it's just like you can't really get that with actually providing. There's a guarantee that they will never ever have less value than what they originally roll in, which is huge. Their income may fluctuate, you know, it may go do different things from the time they have it, but having that protection and then having some of the upside that you can get is huge. And if you can explain that to them, because it's so generalized when I say that, and so when you really break down their portfolio, it's a really good product for tons of people for short-term and long-term income needs.
Universally. Last question I have here is, you know, what's the best advice that you would give the agents on how to write annuities?
The best advice I can give agents on how to write annuities is to get really good at a financial inventory, because if you know how to do that and navigate through the discovery process of any meeting, just to get the right information for the clients to initially trust you, to plug into Ask a Specialist or somebody that has experience with annuities. Everybody's that I've worked with is willing to help at FFL. That's really the culture, for lack of a better word. Everybody's willing to help, and so we have the tools and access to, if you can get the right information, you can evaluate and plan properly, and then you'll learn just from the experience of doing a few with some support. So I would really tap into the support systems you have over here, get really good at doing a financial inventory and fact finding, because that's the best way you can position these annuity products in the beginning without knowing exactly what they do. and to be honest to your clients. Just say, hey, I just don't really know, but I'm going to plug into my advanced markets team, which can help build the proper plan for this, and I'll come back to you with it.
Yeah, excellent point. Well, I appreciate you joining us. I look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas, February 1st, getting your red jacket. That'll be fun. You've earned it. And if anyone has a need for that financial inventory that Victor's talking about, please email us at annuity@familyfirstlife.com, and we will email it out so you have the newest version. So thanks, Victor.
Thanks, Jeff.